This is Ace Coach.
Welcome to the show, Yumi. It's an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Thanks for having me, Zavi. I'm really excited.
Thanks for coming on. I am. Today we're going to be pretty much learning more about you and your practice and then diving into, some lessons that, that you could share for us from your experience. And I always like to kick off with your background. I always like to know allow my guests basically introduce themselves and tell us how you got into coaching.
Yeah, sure. So I introduce myself. I am Yumi. I'm originally from Japan. And just before this call, I was saying to Zavi that I was a competitive professional pole dancer before becoming a coach. Well, I still practice pole dancing, but I had my daughter last year, so I haven't been practicing very much. But anyway, I started my career as a high school English teacher in Japan. I did that for 4 years. I guess I've always had passion for people and, supporting people's development. And I joined my previous organization, which was an international tech company. And I was doing lots of people role in terms of global HR. And then I became HR manager. And then I created learning and development function from the ground up. So I was heading that department for the last 4 years. And when I created that department, I spoke to so many people, like senior execs, etc. And I basically identified that one of the biggest gap we had in the organization was leadership development. And there was no support. People become a leader / manager, but there was no support whatsoever. And a lot of people just had no clue how to lead people. And so I did a lot of research studying around how can I support leaders in terms of their development. And I came across coaching, and I went myself through how many trainings, I can't remember now. But I immediately fell in love with coaching. I just felt the power of coaching, and my life has changed since I met coaching. So I was working on building the coaching capabilities in that organization and running leadership development program, as well as individual coaching to leaders in the organization. So so that's how I came across coaching, and I have been in love since.
It's so cool. So cool. That's crazy. I've learned, that question, learning about some of my guests' background and their origin story. It's very interesting. I've had very interesting ones, but yours has to top. It has to top the most interesting one I've heard. How do you? What, if you don't mind me asking, what got you into professional pole dancing, and how?
I know, right? How did that happen? So I always loved dancing. But I just started dancing as an adult. When I was at uni, I was just focusing on just, just a normal uni life, hanging out with friends, but also a lot of studying. It was a lot of learning, and I was really busy, but I was trying to find some other hobby, I guess. And I became a teacher, and I just wanted to do something for myself. So I was doing ballet for maybe 3 years. But in Japan, it's very expensive, ballet as a hobby. And I paid about 2,000 maybe pounds to just be in performance of that studio I was going to, just as a student.
Wow.
I know, and it was just too expensive, and I just couldn't sort of continue. I guess I get more motivated if I have a goal And being the performance was a goal, and it was a vehicle to improve myself, but at the same time it was just too expensive, and I was just looking for something else. And then my friend just recommended, why don't you try pole dancing, because you can definitely utilize, the skills from ballet, but also it's a bit more like freeing, and also it's good for your fitness. And I went for a trial, and it's so painful. So I couldn't continue, to be honest. In the first instance, I just didn't continue. But then I don't know, I just went back just because it was still fun. So I went back after a year, and then I just got hooked. And then ever since, this history, and I was getting really good at it quite quickly, because I was going to classes quite often, like 3 times a week. And then I was training 4 or 5 hours every session for the competition, and I won 2 competitions actually. And then I got myself qualified to be an instructor, and then I competed in a professional category as well. And yeah, that's interesting to be talking about this. It's feels like ages ago, but yeah, that's how it started.
It was so cool. Who knew there was a whole world of professional pole dancing? Because obviously, when you hear pole dancing, your mind tends to go somewhere else. But there's a whole professional world out there, and I suspect it's really good exercise as well, and really good for staying fit. Because that can't be an easy sport to do, on the pole. So
No,
interesting,
yeah, definitely.
very interesting.
Yeah, and it's I mean, when we are talking about this pole dancing in relation to coaching, I learned a lot
Mm,
through pole dancing.
mm,
Certainly, the biggest thing is discipline, to
okay.
be disciplined with your training and with yourself as well.
Mm,
And I think, yes, if you want to achieve something great, then you need to be disciplined with yourself. You need to be assertive, and you need to make sure you use your time effectively. And I guess that's another thing. I was so passionate about pole dancing, and I'm passionate about coaching, and I
was-
that's something that I guess, yeah, that's I see both things in common. That
mm.
when I feel passionate about something, I don't mind. I don't. I lost track of time. I just invest myself in it, and yeah, I guess I love both of them.
So cool, so cool. And speaking of the coaching
Yeah.
now, one thing I always like to know is, do you work with any particular niche? I know you talked about leadership development, but now that you've started your coaching, do you niche down with any particular
So, good
title? Yeah.
question. I've only started freelancing last month, so
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm still sort of figuring out my, I
What
guess,
niche?
niche. But so another passion of mine, I am a person of lots of passions. As you can tell, I did my master's degree in sustainable development. So, and I know how people development contribute to organizational development, which is
Mm,
critical for sustainability.
okay.
And so I want to work with companies, or should I say organizations, focused on sustainability, or at least,
Mm,
at least understand the importance of sustainability. And I want to work with them to develop that leadership capabilities, develop that, I guess, help them with organizational development, and help them to deliver that impact towards sustainability.
mm,
Yeah, so that is my purpose, and I guess that is my niche.
mm. Very interesting. Because of that, it was going to be the next question I was going to ask. Like, how do you differentiate yourself from other coaches? Because it's such a competitive industry. So, what I guess niching down is one way to differentiate, but is there another way that you stand out from other coaches, like maybe a coaching style or something like that?
Yeah, I think what I used to think, and I think still is the case, is that, I am from, I guess, underrepresented background in the UK
Okay.
anyway. I am Japanese.
Okay.
Not many leaders or not many coaches are Japanese in the UK. And why is that important? Because when you want to create a sort of strong, inclusive organization, where people feel the psychological safety to feel as though their perspectives, their values, their opinions matter, you need to have not just diversity. Diversity is, to me, it's a lot of like numbers you're talking about. Like people, we have this many percentage of women and men, and that's great, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have an inclusive,
Mm.
environment. And for me, as a young, underrepresented background, a woman from that kind of background running leadership development and coaching, it certainly adds the value of different perspectives and
Mm.
different value
Mm.
to the organization. So that's definitely something that is what I represent. And
Mm.
I also have this, huge passion for sustainability. I guess I have a lot of knowledge around that area. And I guess my background from dancing,
Mm.
a lot of people associate coaching with just talking like this one to one, but I incorporate a lot of interesting activities in coaching.
Mm.
Like I incorporate, movement, physicality. I incorporate like music, sometimes drawing. My previous coaches they were all very creative, so they
Mm.
didn't mind using, drawing, etc. So um, I bring that sort of unique, perspective, physicality, creativeness to coaching.
Mm.
Um, I guess that's one thing, and maybe that's another thing is systemic coaching, which is becoming more and more popular, and the importance is being recognized. So it's not just about individual coaching, but I'm talking about team coaching and sort of systemic coaching. So you're not just talking to one person, but you're talking to a system of a number of people. So you're not coaching just one person, but that system. Because what I see is when I was working in my previous organization, frankly speaking, leadership team are not really teams. Leaders were competent in their own, capabilities in their own areas, but they were not really working as a team. And that's not because of them, that's just because there was a lack of a common purpose. There
Mm.
was no bigger picture in the organization, which is, again, is very important for them to work together to identify that and lead with that common purpose and lead the teams that they're leading with that common purpose. But they just didn't have that, and that's what I worked on. What is our why, and how are we going to bring together everybody towards that why, and how are we going to continue to work together in this age of, everything happening with AI. Everything is changing so rapidly.
So true.
Yeah.
So flipping true. Okay, interesting. And obviously you just started now. You haven't been doing this too long, but I guess when it comes to attracting clients, the type of clients, your ideal clients you want to work with, what has that been like for you, and what has been your most successful strategy yet?
Interesting question, because I was hugely inspired by this book called Attracting Perfect Customers.
Okay.
And the whole idea is be that lighthouse. So if you
Mm.
are the lighthouse, everybody will find you.
Fine. Mm.
Basically, if you are doing the right thing, if you are projecting the right message, acting with your, with your own unique values, the right customers will find you. So
Mm.
instead of pushing and pushing, if you are being that right person for your perfect customers, they will find you. And so my approach to this is, my values are being in service of, my coaches or my clients, and care, obviously, for sustainability, for people, for the planet, and curiosity, which is obviously very, very important. Anyway, so those values, they're not all of them, but the top ones. What I'm trying to do is I am trying to focus on crafting my message against those values, and also telling my stories,
Mm.
because people buy from people, right?
Yeah.
People want to know, is this person reliable? Is this person, I guess, trustworthy, like credible? So I'm just telling my stories. This is what I have been doing. This is the problems I can solve. And this is my life story. This is how I think. This is my stories. And it seems to be like, I only started last month, but it's amazing to see that my LinkedIn profile has been growing quite, quite, for me, in my perspective, quite rapidly. And it's amazing to see that many people are engaging and showing interest. And so, and maybe you found me through my LinkedIn, right? So, so I think I will continue to tell my story, tell my experiences, and to stick, I guess, stay true to my values and stay true to my purpose.
I love it. I love it. I mean, LinkedIn has to be the number one platform for executive coaches. Like, that has to be the main thing, because you guys work with B2B leaders for the most part, and LinkedIn is where B2B leaders live and executives live. So yeah, that is smart. And I'm wondering, because of this job, or running your own business is a stressful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you just had the baby and you just started, which is like one of the hardest part of doing business. What would you say then is, how do you look after your own mental health in this tough time, basically?
Yeah, it's really important, right?
Mm.
As a leadership development specialist, I am, I guess, I am the champion of mental well-being, because when people are not mentally well, they cannot be well, they cannot do well. So
Yeah.
I've done in emotional intelligence workshop for my previous company, and etc. And I guess it's a lot about listening to myself, and you know slowing down recently has been really key. Like,
Mm.
this is something I learned from my coachee, actually. So when you slow down, you tend to look up. When you are going fast, when you're walking so fast, you tend to look down, and your mind
Mm.
tend to be busy. And so I just find some moment, especially in the morning, to just slow down,
Mm.
take a moment to breathe. If I can squeeze in, which can be challenging with with a toddler, but I try to squeeze in meditation. But even not meditation, just at least 5 minutes of self-reflection. I never fail to do that. Um, and that's when I slow down. I think about what I am grateful for, what I am celebrating. I think that's a really powerful question in coaching. What are you celebrating today? What have you done well? What can you do better tomorrow?
Mm.
So make sure to, yeah, keep that kind of journal. If I can do meditation, great. And just wherever possible, slow down.
I love it. I love meditation and journaling. Those two things I find very, very helpful
Yeah.
when it comes to mental health. So it's great that you're doing that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then finally, actually not finally, but one question I always like to know is, what are your future plans then for the business? Like, where do you see it being in the next 5 years?
Yeah, and lots of exciting things happening actually in that
Mm.
sense. So, as a sustainability enthusiast, I found this, Sustainable Development Goals.
SDG,
Yeah,
yeah.
SDG. There is this thing called Inner Development Goals. So basically, if you have the right mindset, attitude, etc., then you'll be able to make a positive impact on sustainable development goals, right? So they are looking for ambassadors, and I applied for it,
Okay.
and it seems like I will be able to get on their program, which is exciting. So I haven't decided on which one to go for, which cohorts, but so once I've done that program, I would like to create a sustainability conscious leadership program combining what I learned from the ambassador program, why leadership development matters in this age, why it will contribute to creating a sustainable world. So I want to create that kind of program and combining individual and team coaching and offer that as a sort of package. So I'm really excited for that prospect. When I was in my previous organization, I developed a 6 months leadership development program, and I was running that globally, both in person and online. And I had how many people every year? 30 odd people on the waiting list, and it was a very successful program. And so I have already a good base, from that program. So I'd like to evolve that program, but also have that sustainability sort of touch to it, and combine individual team coaching and really support organizations to make sustainability impact. So that's my goal.
Love it. Really exciting times ahead then for the business. Really cool.
Yeah.
And finally, as we wrap up, I always like to ask for one final tip for maybe a coach just maybe a little bit behind you. What would be one thing you'd say to them or that you do differently if you had to start again?
Do you know what? I always wanted to be a freelance coach, as in, like, I wanted to do full-time coaching for a long time.
Okay.
Even when I started, like I said, I fell in love in coaching straight away, and that's 4 years ago. And
Hmm.
when I was in my previous organization, I was like, oh, I will become a freelance, like gradually. I will build my business gradually, and I would do it over 5 years or something along those lines. And I just left, and I am just focusing on this. And so, and the world needs coaches more than ever. If you look at Deloitte, Gallup, all of these reports, they all say, in this age of VUCA, everything moving, everything changing so rapidly, we need to work within, we need to work on developing people so that people will be more resilient, adaptable, people will be more connected. There's lots of disconnect, but we'll be able to be more connected, adaptable, resilient, etc. And we need coaches to facilitate that. And if I could go back 4 years ago and tell myself that, there is never a right time. You just, but if your heart is telling that's what you want to do, that's what you need to do, you need to do it. And coaches are experts in changing the mindset and overcoming limiting beliefs. And I hope that they can apply that, their expertise in changing the mindset and really empowering self-belief and, just get there, just do it.
I love it. I think that's such a powerful thing because of your spot on that. In fact, I know somebody that is kind of struggling with that right now in terms of taking that leap or to move on to the next stage of her career. So I can totally relate to that. Yumi, this has been a wonderful, wonderful chat. I truly appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for any of our viewers watching this to connect with you, possibly work with you? What's the best way for them to do that?
So if you just look for me on LinkedIn, Yumi Sykes. There is only one Yumi Sykes, I think. Oh, I just did this test today. So if you could just look for me on LinkedIn. I'm still working on my website, so it's just not the best state. So if you could just look for me on LinkedIn, there is a link which just allows you to book time for me. So the initial chemistry session is free, and we can just see if we are compatible there. So yeah, that would be the best way to contact me.
Brilliant. And once again, thank you so much for coming on. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Davi. Really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you so much again for this opportunity.